Hey guys, welcome to my video. Today I will be reviewing the second quarter of A Bad Batch so far. So that's episodes 5 through 8. To review this show, I'll talk about what's good, what's bad, and what's ugly about it. Like my last video where I did this, just know that I won't really be talking about the 4 episodes too much as individuals, but more as the 4 as a whole. As usual, be aware that this video will have full spoilers for A Bad Batch so far, so please don't watch this video if you haven't seen The Bad Batch up to episode 8 so far and you don't want spoilers. Anyways, The Bad Batch continued to be good for a second quarter of a show, and I love how things are starting to move so fast, it's really good. Even though the first 2 episodes of these 4 were a bit slow, the last 2 made up for it. Episodes 7 and 8 were phenomenal. They both were intense episodes, and there were some serious stakes. I think that the first quarter of A Bad Batch kind of just declined in quality after the first episode, because I'm gonna be honest, that first episode was hard to beat, being like an hour long. But in this episode, I think each one got better and better, more or less. It was great. I just love how, unlike a lot of other Star Wars characters, we don't know if A Bad Batch are going to survive. That makes this show like 100 times better for me. Unlike someone like Rex, we don't see any members of Clone Force 99 later on in the timeline, which is genuinely scary. I still feel like anything could happen in the show, and that is a good thing. Because it's really just not too much fun watching the show when you've seen spoilers for it, and I feel like seeing a character later on in the timeline in some other piece of media is almost like a spoiler. That was a big problem I had with the prequel era of Star Wars, so I'm glad the Bad Batch doesn't really have that problem. It's good. They're pretty much avoiding it. I guess we do know that someone like Tarkin or Saw Gerrera or Rex isn't going to die in this as we see them later on, but it's only a small fraction of the cast. I'm gonna be honest, seeing a lot of the Clone Wars, was a little less interesting maybe, because, Anakin's not gonna die. You know Obi-Wan is gonna be just fine, because you see them later on in the original trilogy, and it's just really not too interesting, but the Bad Batch really avoids that problem, and I love it. Now, to change the topic a little bit about what I think is good about these episodes of Bad Batch as well, I love how continuous it feels with the Clone Wars. We saw R7-A7, who's Ahsoka's droid. We see the Martez twins, Captain Rex, and Cad Bane. We saw all of these people in the second quarter of a season, and they were all in the Clone Wars. Not to mention the Bad Batch themselves, besides Omega, who were also in the Clone Wars. This show feels like a direct aftermath of a war, and I loved every second of it. Episode 1 of The Bad Batch starts off with a literally fiery transition between the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch logo, and this show is living up to that transition. There were so many unanswered questions left after the Clone Wars finale, and the Bad Batch is beginning to answer them. There are so many beloved characters that's kinda disappeared after the earlier Clone Wars seasons, and we're learning what happened to them. What I just said is especially true for Cad Bane. I'm so happy he's back after being gone for years. I think he's been gone for 7 years or just something crazy. And now he's back, and hopefully we see what happens. I really hope he doesn't die next episode or something. I hope we get to see a lot more of him. But he's just great, and I feel like there's going to be a lot more characters like that. There'll be hopefully little cameos, and hopefully we can see a lot more clones in this. There's just so much potential for a show, and it's really wonderful, honestly. This is something pretty much everyone says about The Bad Batch, but the animation is beautiful. The voice acting is incredible, and overall the show is just very high quality. Even some of the episodes I consider to be a lot more on the filler side of things have great moments, and you can just tell they have a huge budget. I looked it up and I couldn't find the budget of this show, the exact, but it's at least in the millions. It's great. I also find myself caring more and more about Clone Force 99. I'll admit, when I saw the show was announced, I was a little skeptical. I was like, really? Them? They're making a show about them? Now, though, I'm completely sold on the idea, and I'll be really upset if something bad happens to a Bad Batch, or if someone dies, because that's just how much I care about them. And it just goes to show how good the producers and other writers have been at making us care, because it's been 8 episodes, which seems like a long time, but they're about 20 minutes each. So you really get to care about them, and you see the bond they have with each other, and it's been really good to see. The only thing I think is in between being in the bad or the ugly section of this video is the pacing of A Bad Batch. Episodes 7 and 8 were incredible, but episodes 5 and 6 weren't very good in my opinion. They weren't bad, but not too much happened. Felt like episodes that were just kind of there to help create a bond between the Batch and Omega before the mid-season finale of Cad Bane taking Omega. And I don't want to say these episodes were filler, because I don't think they were. They helped create bonds between the characters, but they still weren't great. Like, nothing too much happened in them. There were some key moments, like the Martez twins coming, that was really good, and that built up to Rex coming later on, but besides that, there weren't too many things that were noticeable. Like the whole episode where they got Muchi, the baby Rantor. That wasn't too great, I didn't think so, but it was cool seeing Zyderia again. But nothing cool happened really until the very end when we saw Bib Fortuna. For the thing I really like the least about the Bad Batch so far is Cad Bane taking Omega. I have a huge problem with that. It is way too similar to the episode of Tragedy in The Mandalorian when, spoiler alert, the Razor Crest blows up and Baby Yoda gets taken. Instead of a Razor Crest getting blown up, Hunter gets shot. And instead of Baby Yoda getting kidnapped, Omega gets kidnapped. That moment was ruined for me by the similarities. It just all felt the same. As a whole, I find the Bad Batch protecting Omega way too similar to Mando protecting Baby Yoda. I said this exact same thing in my last Bad Batch video about this, but both these stories about war-hardened men who have known nothing but violence all of their lives taking in a mysterious child who's being hunted in a dangerous world. Omega is much more independent than Baby Yoda, but the concept is pretty much the same. I guess you can always ignore the closeness of the two shows, but sometimes the Bad Batch feels like The Mandalorian in animated form, and I do not like that at all. Anyways, that's all I have to say about the second quarter of Bad Batch. I keep thinking of new things to say and I keep adding it to a video, but if I keep going this video, it's gonna be like an hour long, so I'm gonna stop here. This is all I can think of for now, but I feel like I did a pretty good review on the complete 4 episodes, but it's always hard talking about the earlier ones because they were from earlier. The newer ones are always more recent and they're more fresh in your mind, so I try to avoid talking only about the last 2 episodes, so tell me in the comments if you guys think I did a good job about that, and if not, next video I'll try even harder. But yeah, episode 8 definitely feels like a halfway point for a show, a very good halfway point, and I'm so excited for the future. Anything can happen. To rank these 4 episodes, I liked episode 5 the least, then episode 6, then episode 8, and I liked episode 7 the best. I liked episode 7 the best by a very small margin because the closeness between episode 8 and the episode of Tragedy and The Mandalorian really bugged me. Things are getting better and better though, and I'm thrilled for the future of the show. I rate episodes 5 through 8 of The Bad Batch as a whole an 8.5 out of 10, the same rating as the first 4 episodes. I do this because the first episode of Bad Batch was really hard to top. It was like a mini movie. It was an hour long, it was really entertaining, and I feel like it was pretty equal for the first and second quarter of the show so far for filler, or what I call filler. I know I don't really like that word because I don't think it was filler, but yeah, I said that earlier on. But I feel like episodes 5 and 6 were a little more fillery, and episodes 3 and 4 were also a little more fillery, but then 7 and 8 were really good. But yeah, that's why I rate it pretty much equal. So, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video because it would really mean a lot. Make sure to tell me if there are any movies or shows you'd like to see me review next, and I'll see you in the next video.